lead estate, Mr. Koen.
Thank you. Sorry? Yeah, all right. All right, thank you guys for coming. I'll stand over here so everyone can take a look. My name is Koen, or Koen, however you want to say it. I'm the founder and owner of Lead Estate together with my business partner. And today I'm going to talk about a new way of client acquisition. By making your marketing and sales team work together instead of separately. So I'm going to talk about three things today. I'm going to say a little bit more about Lead Estate, what we do, why we do it, and our philosophy. I'm going to speak about the problem that a lot of real estate agencies and project developers, well, a lot of companies in general are facing, which is that they're mainly focused on lead generation, but not on client acquisition. Because it's not only lead generation, it's a whole process that needs to work. And then I'm going to talk about the solution that we've created, which is the growth formula, which I'm going to get into at the end of the presentation. So a little bit about us. For Lead Estate, it is our vision to be the worldwide leader in client acquisition and business growth for the real estate industry by building and operating measurable marketing and sales systems combined with personal leadership. And you might think, why is personal leadership in there? We believe that if anyone in the whole client acquisition process takes personal leadership over themselves, whether it's their personal lives, whether it's their business lives, that will improve the process. So every person takes his own responsibility over not only his or her part in the process, but the whole part. And this is something that we really implement in our company as well, by doing leadership coaching for the whole of our team, which will make an extra impact on our clients as well, but also helping our clients achieve their own personal leadership in their business, because that's what leads to growth, right? So that's why in Lead Estate, the word lead doesn't only mean lead generation, but it also means leadership. So these are just some of the clients that we work with. We mainly work in the luxury sector with clients like the agency, Cluttons, Charlton International, etc., Sotheby's, of course. And we work here in Bali as well and in Dubai, mainly by attracting investors. So what we're really good at is, well, targeting and converting people into sales that actually are wealthy and that can afford to invest or can afford to buy luxury properties. But in general, we've helped anyone. So even if you're not luxury, we can definitely help you optimize your systems. So what is the biggest problem in client acquisition? It's that your client acquisition process is broken. It's simply not working. Sometimes it's maybe the lead, sometimes it's the follow-up, sometimes it's the sales. But if you start seeing it as a process, as a whole system, then you start viewing client acquisition or sales and marketing in a different way. And the first problem is that you get hundreds of unqualified, low-quality leads. So if you look at the illustration on the right side, what usually happens is when agencies or developers start working with marketing companies, lead generators, is that they simply do this. They run some advertisements or they do whatever form of marketing, send people to a landing page, people fill out a form, and then they send the leads. So what they're doing is they're selling data and they're not selling conversations. They're not selling actual people that have said, hey, I'm interested, I want to schedule an appointment. So what happens is they don't take any responsibility over what happens after you send that data, you know, but I'm going to get into it later, why that is so important. Everyone likes to browse on the internet and look for nice properties, but what most companies do, whether it's your internal team or whether it's your marketing company that you hired, is they just measure clicks, they measure leads, website visitors, and they make nice posts on Instagram, but you need more than that to actually close deals, which is the whole point of doing marketing. So the advertisements are not based on or not optimized based on real-time conversions and conversations, but they're optimized based on forms. But it's actually only a qualified lead when someone actually answers the phone and confirms that what they filled out in the form is actually true and that they are interested. So what they're not doing is actually measuring the return on investment, which is the most important thing. So that's the first problem, marketing. The second problem is inconsistent and infrequent follow-up. And this can have multiple causes, whether you only work with agents who are doing this for you, while maybe you have your own team of individual real estate agents that are doing the follow-up. It's kind of the case in multiple different business sizes. So you have the person who is alone, right? The self-employed agent, freelance agent, I guess, or a freelance company. Well, that person just does everything at the same time, from filing taxes all the way to closing deals. So usually follow-up just falls behind, but it is the most important thing. If you have a boutique agency, then you usually have like 2 or 3 agents maybe. You are the business owner. There is some follow-up being done. Maybe you have one person that's responsible. Maybe you have multiple people that's responsible. But what I usually see in boutique agencies is that nothing is tracked. Maybe it's like a family business or it's a smaller company. They usually get a lot of people through network and through referrals, which isn't really focused on really measuring the numbers and optimizing things. And that is where the boutique agencies, in our experience, lose a lot of deals, right? And then, of course, you have the bigger agencies with multiple agents where a lot of time it's just a chaos. You have 10 agents, 2 of them follow up properly, 2 of them don't follow up properly. 1 of them does update the CRM system, 8 of them don't update the CRM system. And this is something that I see all the time, and that needs to be structured. So the biggest reason why most real estate companies are losing hundreds of thousands in revenue is by not following up consistently and frequently. And a lot of times it's not even the leads, but I'm going to get into why both of them combined are the biggest problem. Because in real estate, you have long-term sales cycles, you have low conversions but high rewards. So everything is in the details. If you only follow up with 80% of your leads, then maybe that 20%, especially if you're a luxury real estate agent, for example, that might be hundreds of thousands in commission. And then you don't have all the sufficient data because you only followed up with 80%. So you're going to make decisions based on data that's not complete. And this is the biggest problem. So what's the consequence of all this? And that's pointing fingers. Marketing blames sales for not following up properly, and sales blames marketing for bad leads, right? I see a couple of people nodding here with their heads. Is there anyone who has an agency or is a project developer who has experienced this? You? Yeah, so it's always like, the marketing says like, oh yeah, you need to follow up better, but sales says, yeah, but the leads are not good. And yeah, I can completely understand you. Because this is exactly the problem, right? I think it's a bit hard to read, but we've created this whole process. And this is kind of where the bottlenecks are. Also here, where we'll start first. So one of the biggest reasons in working with marketing agencies or marketing companies or lead generators is that they take zero responsibility over what happens in the rest of the process. So what happens is that real estate agencies or developers, they need to keep their marketing company accountable. But it should be the other way around, because if you're really focused on, if you have a commitment on the results of your clients, then you take responsibility over this and you keep this accountable as well. So first of all, there's no responsibility on the marketing side and actually calculating the right numbers to optimize. Then what happens a lot of times is you don't have a single inside sales agent, is what we call it, the follow-up agent. Usually what you do is, imagine you generate 500 leads and you have 5 agents, you divide the leads over all the agents. But then they're not motivated. They don't want to call all these leads. They just want to, as agents, you just want to speak to people that have that are actually interested, that you can build relationships with and close deals with. And then you get a demotivated sales team as well. So what we do at Lead Estate is, even we're a lead generator and we do follow up, we even take into account if agents are motivated or not, because they are one part of the process and one part of the process that needs to take responsibility for what they do. So what we would recommend is to implement an inside sales agent who does all of this. One person responsible for follow-up, scheduling appointments in the agent's calendar. Because when you don't have this, and when you're only following up with 80% of your leads, then you don't have proper feedback from the follow-up all the way to the lead generation, which again is also usually the marketing team's fault, because they don't take any responsibility over that, and they don't ask for that feedback, because they only calculate clicks, leads, visitors, etc. And if you don't have this feedback, you are not able to optimize correctly based on real data, but only on fake data. So what happens is you're only calculating vanity metrics, you're only measuring views, clicks, and cost per lead instead of actual return on investment. You get pointing fingers, marketing blames sales, sales blames marketing. You don't have an inside sales agent. You have inconsistent follow-up and demotivated agents because they have to follow with all these low-quality leads. And you're gambling instead of optimizing. Because there's no feedback to the marketing team. So how are you going to expect them to optimize based on real numbers? And this is costing you hundreds of thousands in revenue. So what's the solution? The solution is the growth formula. And growth is an acronym, as you can see. It stands for generate, relationship management, outreach, warm relationships, transactions, and happy clients. And you need every step in the process to make the process work. So what usually happens is people only focus on generate. Oh, we need to generate more leads. Oh, the campaigns are going very well because we generated 300 leads, right? But the leads don't mean anything unless they are qualified and unless they convert into actual sales. But what also happens sometimes is they don't even have a CRM system. They have maybe a spreadsheet, for example. But that is where the conversion rate drops, right? Or what they try to do is they try to generate leads, they immediately call them and immediately try to sell them on the phone. Then they lose interest because you're forgetting to actually warm up the relationship and build that relationship. And if you don't have happy clients, you just don't have a sustainable business, so that speaks for themselves. Because when you have happy clients, they will generate the leads for you. And this is the whole circle, basically, and you need to optimize every single step. So then you get this system where you go from generating the lead and creating the first contact all the way from the landing page, going into the CRM system, having one person following up with all of the leads, giving that feedback that is necessary to optimize the advertisement and actually generate quality leads to filter out the people that you don't want and to really focus on the people that you do want. So that person can schedule appointments in the salespeople's calendar, including with automations through WhatsApp, email, etc. So that your agents are actually motivated because they only have to build relationships and close deals. And that will grow your business. So you'll have clear metrics, conversion percentages of sales, revenue closed, return on investment, etc. You're optimizing your ads based on feedback from real conversations and real data instead of just from forms. You have consistency and frequency in your follow-up because you have one person, or maybe if you're a bigger company, 2 people that are responsible for the follow-up. So you only have to keep one person accountable instead of 10 agents, which is a lot easier and clears the noise from your business. And that's something that we do at Lead Estate when we partner up with companies. We really take a look first before we start, where is the noise, right? And I recommend you all do that if you own an agency or a development company. So what then happens is you get qualified appointments straight into the agent's calendar, and they're motivated. So they only focus on building relationships and closing, generating you hundreds of thousands in revenue in the process. So that was the presentation. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, feel free to let me know. And if anyone wants to speak to me or whatever, you can talk to me after the other presentations. I'd love to talk to you and see how we can help. So yeah.
Thanks, Sal.